Amen. I had to say amen. That started feeling really good. I was just like the music. And if I didn't break it up there, I'd be up here snoring or something. Hey, how are you doing this evening? Were you in here when we talked about the movie? I just blanked. You know, the emotions. What is it? Inside Out 2. I saw Inside Out 1. I saw that Inside Out 2 was out. And I told my wife, I said, hey, I want to take you out on a date. She goes, where? To the movies. What are we going to go see? Inside Out 2. She goes, you know, that's a cartoon. I go, but it's deep. And you're a marriage and family therapist. You should go to that. And I was thinking about as we were talking and sharing, Joy and I were talking, and like, which one you were. I think I shocked her with the one I told her I was. All right? Don't say anything, Joy, okay? Which character do you think which emotion do you think is me? Wow, that was like, I feel naked up here. What's going on? How did you know that? Wow, I'm going to have to process this, Sam. That's kind of, okay, thanks, yeah. Well, good night, everybody. I'll never come back here, no. But I wonder which one you are, you know? Yeah, anger, fight, flight, freeze. I'm fight ever since a little kid. I wonder, though, if there's lonely in here. I wonder if there's depressed. I wonder if there's anxious in here. And we can be a mix of those things. You can have joy, but go right back into one of the other ones. And I think there's many more of those characters. I think there's a bunch of anger little red guys smoking cigars with their heads popping off in here too. I think the problem is we stuff all those things and it's like what these commercial is for depression, that woman's walking through the thing with her little mask, smiling. And I think we come in dark places in our lives, but we're terrified of the dark. How many of you were afraid of the dark when you were little? A bunch of you, yeah? Yeah? How many of you still are, okay. Sleep with your teddy bear, jump over the bed. I was always jump on the bed so the things under my bed couldn't grab me, afraid of the dark. I wonder how many of us are still afraid of the dark. We don't talk about the dark. The Bible talks about the dark. The Old Testament, Jesus talked about the dark. In fact, Jesus said, look, you're going to follow me? You think you got some dark places? You're going to go even more. Look what I went through. What I went through, you're going to go through. And we go, amen. But have you ever thought about that list? Do you really want to walk where Jesus walked? I mean, do you want someone you're at church and they don't like what you say, so they take you out back and try to throw you off a cliff? I mean, that's kind of a negative thing, for a preacher. Do you want people to try to kill you? Do you want people to do the things they did to Jesus? Yet he said, darkness is a part of this world. I wonder how many people are not just sitting in a darkened room, but are sitting with a darkened heart right now. I wonder. And I think for my years of chaplaincy, I could say pretty much everyone here. We don't like the dark. Why don't we like the dark? Have you thought of that? Why don't you like the dark? Why? Anybody here want to say why you were afraid when you were a kid? What were you afraid of the dark? Huh? Wait. You can't see because it's dark. And why does that scare us when we can't see? The unknown. Or you get out of a sister like me. I had 3 older sisters. The only boy immediately said I was spoiled. No, I had 4 mothers. And I could never get into the bathroom. But I had a sister, we had a bunk bed. And my mom put me up on the bunk bed. But one night I rolled off in the middle of the night, big bunk bed, and missed our little drawer, our little chest with a light on it by the bed. I went right through the slot, boom, and woke up crying. So my mom said, you get the bottom bunk, and made my sister go on top, which started my nights of terror. My sister would wait until my mom tucked us in and kissed us goodnight after prayers. And she always waited long enough. And I'd sit there waiting, not tonight, not tonight. And then the voice from up above would go, Terry, Terry. No, I'm not listening, blah, 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 blah. Oh, you hear me? No, no, no. What's that? Did you hear that? Was it the closet or the window? No, things are coming under the bed, and they're going to eat you. And one night I said, they're going to eat you too. And they go, no, because you're on the bottom bunk. They'll eat you first and be full and leave me alone because I'm on top. And then she'd go, good night, sweet dreams. Yeah. I love her, but she traumatized me greatly. We're afraid because we can't see. We don't have control. We're afraid of the dark. But where is there a place in this world where God is not? When I was a boy, movies were evil. We couldn't get them on TV late. Now, I wonder what the theology now is with movies. But they used to say, you know, Sister White said the angels, the guardian angels, leave you at the door when you go in the theater. I was thinking, what goes on in those theaters, man? That must be good, right? First of all, and I remember as a kid, we went to the theater. My folks, I'm one of those wicked Southern California Adventists, I guess, we went to a movie and I'm like, I'm going to die. The angels are leaving. And I walked through the dark corridor and it's like, wow, this is nice in here. It's cool. It's got roses. It's kind of like Praxis in here, right? You got lights and the big screen and where's the popcorn, man? And then I went to church. It's kind of like church. And I'm going, why did the angels leave, And then I grew up and studied, when Ellen White said that, there were no movie theaters. They didn't have movie theaters. She was talking about vaudeville and burlesque theaters where one moment it's dancing dogs, the next minute it's three hoochie-coochie dancers, and, such a lot. But you know what? Her theology was wrong because God never leaves you. And your guardian angel never walks away from you. And Jesus said, I am God over light and dark. In fact, who created the darkness? Think of that for a minute. Why are we afraid of the dark? Story. I think we have it on slides. If we don't, no. Why does it always do that? Don't say because I'm a boomer. Don't. It's on. I got it, okay? Probably one of the darkest darknesses, in proper English, in Jesus' time was someone with leprosy. Leprosy was the most feared thing in the ancient world. Why? Well, let's go to Israel. If you had leprosy, the moment it was found, you would go to the priest and they would pronounce you have leprosy. And from that moment, you never went back home. Your family couldn't see you. Your wife couldn't be with you. Your children couldn't be with you. If they came, they'd leave something and run away. And if you walked around any human being and did not call out unclean and stay a safe distance, people had every right in the world and were encouraged to stone you or throw things at you or get rid of you. You cease to be a person. First of all, you were unclean. You see, cleanliness involved if you could go into the temple or not. If you go in the temple, that's where you went to see God, and you had to be clean to go in front of God, ritually clean. You had to be ritually clean to offer sacrifices so your sins could be forgiven. So not only were you shut off from society and any form of your career or life or loves, you were shut off from God, and you had to run around and constantly proclaim, I'm unclean. What deeper darkness is that? What deeper darkness do we walk in than being lonely and othered and unclean. Mark 1, starting with verse 40. A man with leprosy came and knelt in front of Jesus, begging to be healed. Problems already. If you were the audience listening then, there's all kinds of things wrong here. A man with leprosy came to Jesus. He didn't run away. He didn't shout unclean. He knew Jesus was a rabbi with crazy stories coming around him. All before this in the chapter, it's mass healings and demons being cast out all through the area in which he lived. And even the lepers got to hear the latest news about that. And this leper said, I'm going against everything I've been taught. I'm in the dark, but I'm going to stumble in my dark because I see a ray of light, and this is my one chance. And this rabbi's different. He does different things. He's not like the other ones. So maybe. And he took his chance. And he came into where Jesus was in the city. And he came on the streets. And I don't know how many rocks were thrown at him, how many curses were sent out at him, but he saw Jesus and he knelt in front of him. He didn't touch him. He kept his distance, but he begged him to be healed. Let me tell you about that word healed. It's one of my favorite words in the Bible. It's a Greek word, sozo. Say it, sozo. Isn't that fun? Sozo. Sozo. And what I like about sozo, it has two meanings. And in the Bible, they'll flip which one they use. It means being saved or being healed, cured. Saved, cured. So when you read through the parables, you read through the stories of Jesus, you find that word, flip them, because it meant the same. Because to him, in his context, if he was saved, if he was clean, he could go back to be with God, he'd be saved, and he'd be healed. Total package. And he said to Jesus, he said, if you're willing, you can heal me and make me clean. See, he didn't say if you can. Like the father whose son was demon-possessed, and after the Mount of Transfiguration, the disciples couldn't heal him. And then when he saw Jesus, the father runs to Jesus and said, look, if you can heal him. And Jesus goes, if? This guy says, if you're willing. Because he believed that Jesus could. If you're willing, you can heal, you can sozo me, you can save me, restore me, and make me clean. You can bring me back from the land of the living dead. You, with a word, can unite me with my loved ones. You, with a word, Jesus, can bring me back to all that matters in life. You can bring me out of my darkness. And you can make me clean. Story. My father was a doctor. He wanted me to be a doctor. I worked for a year in a hospital to see if I'd like a medical environment. I said, I will never work in a medical environment. Yeah, not for me, Dad. So I went in ministry, and where does God put me? Loma Linda, super medical environment. For 25 plus years. And I'm a doctor, but I'm the ones that don't make money. I just go, God is like, got you. Yeah, be specific what you pray for anyway, So I've been here, right? But so my dad was on call a lot, which, you understand that world. And so there'd be days when I wouldn't see him. He'd leave before I got up and come home after I went to bed. And this one night, I was just a little guy. I'm probably about 4 years old. And I got one of those earaches. You remember those earaches you get as a kid? Just like those earaches, like, ah. And I don't know why. I cried out. I remember crying, and I was hurting and moaning and whatever. And I kind of made it through the dark. You know when you get up at night as a little kid and you're wandering through the dark and you're running into things? Mommy, Daddy, and my dad came. And it kind of shocked me. It's like, Dad? It was always Mom. Because when Dad came home after being on call, it's like that guy would start falling for the couch or bed and be asleep. Sleeping. But Dad came. And he picked me up, and he took me into our living room where there was this big padded rocking chair. And he held me close to me, and he had me turn my head on the side like that. And he took his breath, and he would go into my ear. And he kept doing that till we fell asleep together. In the dark, he came, and he touched me. Even though I called out, he was only a wall away. Their bedroom was on the other side of my wall. And to this day, and my father's been gone for over 40 years. He died early. I still think of that touch. You see, the touch of love changes things. The touch of love is what we all long for. The touch of love. Now, what happens next? When you go in the Bible, don't read it like a book that was written now, like a novel now. It's not written that way. First of all, they didn't take time to say, the sun was a glorious disk of gold dipping down into the musky clouds. You know, come on, they don't talk like that. It took too much time, and parchment cost too much money. It's like they just got to it. But what they do is they give you little code things, like everybody goes, oh, that's talking about the verse in Isaiah or something like that. So I'd say a word and you'd remember the whole verse. They don't have to write it down or something like that. But if they give a detail, be sure not to just zoom past that. And there's one here. It's one of these little golden nuggets. So it says in verse 41, moved with compassion. And this is a word in Greek that means like your whole gut's churning. Have you ever had something happen so much, everything's like, not because you ate too much or wrong. I'm not talking about that, but you're just like moved, just grabs you. And it says Jesus was deeply moved with compassion. He saw this guy. He knew what his life was. Jesus saw and knew him and was moved. And then Jesus does something the guy never asked him, never even dreamed to ask him. Jesus reached out and touched him before he was healed. Love came with touch. You see, all the other things is before you come back into society, which comes later in the story, you had to go to the priest and they had to do tests and make sure. And finally, if they said you were clean, you could go. But Jesus touched him. What do you think that felt like? Right now, in your life, in your heart. Oh, you come here, you look pretty, you guys got all nice for Friday night, got your Praxis look coming on, and I know you're coming here for Jesus and hopefully spot that other person for the night, and that's okay. It's sanctified here. I used to do that in nightclubs with bad plans ahead, but I know all your thoughts are holy right now. What would it mean if your darkness right now, Jesus came and touched you? That he knew you, and he knew that's what you needed. And isn't it what we all need? Jesus reached out and touched him and said, I'm willing. You don't have to doubt that. You knew I could, and I'm willing. He said, be sozoed. Be saved. Be healed. Be cured. And instantly the leprosy disappeared. I always wondered what that like. You know, Jesus does these miracles like, did it take a while? What went? This one just like, boom. Like, did this guy have digits of his hands or toes gone? Was his nose eaten off? And all of a sudden, wham! Wow. That's what I want to see. Instantly, the leprosy disappeared and the man was healed. Then Jesus sent him on his way with a stern warning. Look, don't tell anyone about this. Right, Jesus? Like, you thought that would work? Like, you think they might wonder, hey, you have fingers. How'd you get those back, you know? Don't tell anyone. Instead, go to the priest, let him examine you, take along the offering required in the law of Moses for those who have been healed of leprosy. This will be a public testimony that you have been cleansed. And of course the man listened to him, right? You would have, wouldn't you? No, you wouldn't have. But the man went and spread the word, proclaiming everywhere what happened. And as a result, crowds soon surrounded Jesus, and he couldn't publicly enter a town anymore. He had to stay out in the secluded places. Jesus wanted him to go and get the okay from the priest, knowing that if he told everybody, the priest wouldn't okay him, because the priest didn't like Jesus. And it also would bring more heat on Jesus, and it wasn't his time yet. It would cause more difficulty for the kingdom. But let me stop there. What's that story have to do for you tonight? First of all, God owns the darkness. There is no place where God is not in control. There is no place where God is not present. The angels don't stand in the temple waiting for you to get cleaned up before they come. Then why do these bad things happen? Oh, Pastor Philip, has anybody ever asked you that? Why does bad things happen to good people? Why did that person die and this one live? Why are they married and I'm not? Why is that child sick? Why? If God. And yet Jesus said, this is a broken place. I came and brought you back. I own this. And one day that heaven will come. But now I'll take you through the storm. There'll be scars. There'll be wounds. But everything that's done to you will turn back to your glory at some point. We all go through the dark. But the thing is, God controls it. Why? I don't know. So let's just get past that. I know the who, Jesus. I know the how. He came for me and paid a price for me. I can tell you the when and all the other ones, but the whys. It's kind of like Job. Job said to God, if God was here, I'm guiltless. And his friends, look, we know bad things happen to bad people. Good things happen to good people. Bad things happen to you, really bad, so you did a really bad thing. So fess up, Job. And Job was just all beside himself. And then God shows up. Can you imagine? God shows up. Hey, Job, whoa, what'd you have to ask me? You know. And he said, but before you do, and go read this. Just go straight to what Jesus says, because the arguments back and forth between Bildad and that'll drive you crazy. Those guys talk like crazy. But God comes back, and he says, just answer these questions. And then for I think it's about 4 chapters, God just goes, where were you when I did this? Do you know how I measured out the universe? How do I hold the worlds up? You know, at the end, Job, it says, is just covering his head like, okay, I got it. I got it. You have to understand that sometimes you need the dark to see the light more clearly. If you go out here in Southern California, it's really hard to see stars. When I was a kid here, way back when Ellen White brought me, I could lay in my backyard in Downey over here and just see the stars. But now we've done away with the stars in our man-made universes. But you see the stars most clearly in the dark. I felt my Father more intensely in the dark. And though my ear hurt, my Father stayed with me all that night, and it stuck with me to this day. What does God want from you? Praxis is great, man. I'm watching all this stuff, the videos. You guys don't know what church was like when I was a kid. There was no young adult anything. And when I look at a pastor, I'm like, he gets to wear jeans. They made me shave my beard off. I used to have long hair and a beard. Cut that hair, shave right to your collar, and you cannot have a beard, just a mustache. I don't know what was wicked about a beard and what was okay with it. I go, Jesus had hair like me, and no, God won't like you, but he came like me. Anyway, that's just a moment of venting, saying, you young people get away with everything. But what does God want from you? You see, coming here to church and being a part of Praxis, that's your community, that's your training ground, but it's not to stay here. But what does God want you to do? Well, pass out tracts. For what? What does God want you to do? What does God want from you? Any answers? Yeah. He wants you. He wants to come in the dark. He wants to hold you in his arms. He wants to blow the breath of life into you and tell you it's okay. I came to reconnect you because you walked away from me with the lies with Satan. And there's only one way back, and I paid it. He wants you. Oh, what do you want me to do? Come here and let me love you. Yeah, sure, okay, but what? Huh? What? Well, what do you want me to do then? What does he want you to do then when you know how much he loves you? He said a powerful thing, and John wrote it down. He said, when you, my followers, love each other like I've loved you and I love the Father, then they'll know and believe that I came. I don't care what you preach. I don't care how good you know prophecy. I don't know if you got all the doctrines together or everything's the best you can. It means nothing. The world will know that Jesus came and he's real when you love like that. And you can't love like that till you've been loved on like that. You can't do what you've never seen. And how do you be loved on by God? How do you do that? Anybody? You just say, okay. You can't hug somebody unless you open your arms. God says, what is he? He said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. And if anybody answers, I'll come in and we'll live together. We'll eat. We'll party. All you have to do is say, okay. Well, I can't see him. It's dark. I couldn't see my dad either. But when he put his arms out to pick me up, I could feel him, and I let him. Well, I'm no good. How did Jesus treat the son that had left? Took all his inheritance and came back. He covered him. And he said, look, anybody look at him? This is my boy. He's covered. He's got the signet ring power of my family. He's got shoes. He's no slave. When God sees you, he doesn't see all our brokenness. He sees all of our beauty. And all the rest he fills in the blanks for us. That's it. It's taken me. Okay. Hey, I have a question for you. Why is it as humans that we like everything that goes with 5? Okay, this year is my wife's and mine 45th wedding anniversary. I got married when I was 2 years old. No, right? Why is that so much better than today? We just had our 44th anniversary. Oh, yeah. This is our 45th. Yay! What's the thing with 5s and 10s? You know what I mean? Why do sermons have 3 points? By the way, I told Pastor Randy I love watching his fingers when he preaches because I realize I go 1, 2, 3. You know how he does it? 1, 2, 3. I go, that's cool. Try it. Which one is easier for? What do you do? 1, 2, 3. Anyway, I don't know where I went with that. I just thought of it. Okay, I'm back. A little ADHD moment there. But why are those numbers and why are those things different? We have these weird significances. But I've been married 45 years. I've been in ministry the magic 40 years as of Monday. Wow. 40 years. I remember when I was an undergraduate sophomore, they did these did they do this to you, Philip? They did these batteries of psychological and social tests on us up at Pacific Union College. And I'm not going to say the pastor's name. You might be related to them. They're probably long gone by now. But he said, yeah, you should think of a different job. I go, why? Well, these tests say you're socially blunt. You mean I tell the truth? I don't know what. So na on him, 40 years. Anyway, but all of those things, it took me all those years to get my bachelor's of theology. Then I mastered divinity. Then I became a demon. Doctor of ministry is demon. I'm like, should have thought of that one. Went from mastering divinity to a demon. But what I've had to do is take what I learned and deconstruct it. You see, I was given beliefs. They were hammered in my head. Where is he that's going into studying ministry? Yeah, everybody has the idea you have to know this, you have to read this, you have to do this. And then there's some point where I had to say, wait a minute. I have all this stuff up here and about God, but I don't know the stuff here. And that's the one who came and got me. Have you heard my story before? That's for another day, but I was far from God, far from life. And he came and got me. And his touch, when I hated him, I hated all this church stuff. I hated God. I saw the hypocrisy of church. I saw racism. I saw classism. I had people come at me when there was nothing wrong, and I became bitter. And I ran hard and fast, and I saw darkness too. But he was there. He was there. When I was in the clubs, the big clubs in L.A., and I was waiting one night, and it's kind of like, you have music, Praxis has music, club had music. Music is, and like the lights, and the good-looking women you're looking for, I want to meet them, and, and I'm having my drinks, and yeah. And a voice came in my mind, said, look at it. I'm like, look at it. And the voice told me, look again. I'm like, and the weirdest thing happened, it's like I could see into people's minds. And they were like dancing skeletons, all brokenhearted and lonely like me. I go, whoa, took another drink, got that out of my mind, went on with it. But the point is, God was there with me. God was there in South Central LA when I ran there. God was in Beverly Hills when I was up in there. God was with me in that dark bedroom of my torturous sister. God was with me in my deepest brokenness. God is with me now. I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. Was there any wiggle room in that? In Romans 8, can anything separate you from God's love? Can demons, can angels, can things that happen in your past, it just goes on and on. Paul just gets so excited, he just ends it with, or any other thing that I didn't think about. Nothing can separate you from the love of God poured out through Jesus Christ. It's the touch of love. And my prayer for you is that you feel that touch. And it's God wanting to. God's using me to talk to you to say, let me have a chance. Will you open your arms? And just see what happens. Let's bow our heads. I want each of you to just be still for a moment. And I want you to not run away from that emotion, whether it's anger or anxiety or loneliness or fear, whatever. Now I want you to picture somebody else in that dark place with you, with that emotion that's hurting you so badly. And it's Jesus. And I want you to look at Jesus in your mind right now. I want you to look in his eyes. How does his eyes look? Are they condemning? Then you're not seeing Jesus. Look in his eyes. Look at his hands. They're scarred. He did that for you, to reunite him into the circulatory system of the universe, of his being, to reunite you to where you should have always been and never left. That Adam and Eve longed to get back to, but Christ, he bridged it. And he's so excited, he said, you don't have to wait till I come again. I'm here now. But boy, when I come, it's going to be full on. Nothing to see it or block your glory and my glory. But I'm in you. Christ in you, the hope of glory. And all I'm asking you to do is just open your heart. Just let me in. It's nothing you have to do to make me want to love you and be closer, because I can be no closer than I am now. It's just, will you open up and not tuck me away and where you don't pretend you don't see me? Feel my love. It's the love of a Father that wants you to be with me forever. And though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, though you go through darkness, though you have fear and anxiety, understand that you're not in a dark pit, rushing and falling down to the jagged rocks at the bottom. No, you're in a hole, but it's a tunnel. You're going through dark, but at the end there's light. You're going through a dark time, but it's a passageway through something bigger that I found this is the best and safest and quickest route to go through. And you don't have to be afraid. Because yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. And your rod that guides me and your staff that protects me is there. And we go together. The touch of love. Lord, are you willing? He says, of course I am.